What did I do the other day that you would have found funny? I tried I tried that thing. Do you remember it was a while ago now. Um, there was this I don't I feel like we talked about it. I feel like maybe sent you the clip, or maybe you sent me the clip of this woman that would stand next to a tree in the park and then no?
No.
Okay. Um, I'm sure it was a YouTube thing, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yeah.
And it looked like a nice path in the country. Um, and she was standing next to some kind of tree. I couldn't really identify it from the leaves. I wasn't really looking that closely. And it just shows her like standing, but the branch is not super close to her. It's not anywhere, and there's no wind. So, um, and she just starts talking to the tree, and then she's like, "Hey, how you doing?" Just like, just stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing spiritual, nothing, anything like that, right? Just like, oh, you're so beautiful, you're so nice. Look at this, could you, could you, touch me, or that kind of thing. And pretty soon the branch, is getting like closer and closer and closer. And then finally it like brushes up against her face. And
Huh.
so this other person then cuts to another one and she's like, I, I, I don't care if it's bullshit or not. I got to try this. And so she went
Right,
in the
right, right.
woods to do it. And it happened with her. And I was like, all right, I don't care if it's bullshit or not. I got to try it. so, so I went down to the office. I was trying to find like a deciduous tree that you know, that was close. And so I tried it with the oak tree outside the office. And basically, it was more like, fuck you, I'm not moving, And so then I went over to this maple tree. I'm like, all right, I'll give it another try. I mean, here's the weird thing, but this is what I'm talking about individuals, right? Because I'm like,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay, maple and oak are both Jupiterian, right? So it's like, so I go to this maple tree, and that's the one, and I've done a lot of trimming on that tree as well, so
Oh.
like because it's really close to the office. But
Yeah,
there was a
yeah.
branch and it was here like this, pretty, I stood like, I didn't want to make it dramatic, but I stood like um 8 inches away from it maybe, or something like that,
Yeah,
where,
yeah.
and there was no wind. And so I start talking to it. All of a sudden, the thing starts to like, and I'm like, okay, is that like I can't sense a breeze, but I'm like, well, it's outside. Of course, there's going to be like
Yeah,
air currents or whatever, right? I'm just sort of,
yeah.
and I'm just saying, nothing spiritual again, just like, hey, I saw this thing. I was just sort of explaining it to it, like, hey, I
Yeah.
saw this thing, da 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 da. I'm telling the fucking thing, like within like 3 minutes, comes over and like brushes my face. And then the second time, like does this, and I'm like, I picked a spot that I looked all around so that nothing would
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like,
Yeah.
me. I'm trying to like
Yeah.
make sure there's nothing just
Yeah, yeah.
fucked up going on that I'm fooling myself, because
Yeah.
I'm as prone to that as anybody else, And
Yeah.
so but I stood there and just kept talking to it. It was like, and I'm just sort of like sending good feelings to it and saying like, thanks for not falling on the house. Thanks for not falling on the clinic, and you're Maple, you're Jupiter, so you know, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it does it. I'm like, damn. I'm like, okay, that's a different level of what we've been teaching students. I'm like, okay, I can't even present that to them until you get up here and try it yourself. Because I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
there's
yeah.
no way
Okay.
I
All
gotta
right.
have a
Yeah.
second. I can't. No, I gotta have a secondary thing there. I gotta have
Yeah.
a secondary confirmation on that because it's just like,
All right. Yeah.
you know,
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like, but I gotta admit, dude, the first person that I thought about wasn't you. It was Kira.
Yeah,
All I
totally.
could
Yeah,
see in my
100%.
mind
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Kira going, "Oh my God, this is so awesome. I could just see her eyes sparkling and her
Right.
big smile and just like going, oh my God, this is so cool.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I'm
That's
gonna
true.
talk to trees all the time
Yeah,
now.
that she would like that. That is pretty cool.
Oh my God.
All right. Yeah, I will I'll tell her about it and see if she and if you find the clip or
If
whatever.
I find the clip, I'll send it to you.
Yeah, that's so funny though. Oh my
Isn't
God.
it?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, because
yeah.
at first
Yeah.
I was just like, ah, there's something fucking weird going on here.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Somebody's
Yeah.
got a fishing line tied to the tree that I can't
Yeah, yeah,
see, and
yeah.
they're,
Right, right, right,
doing
right.
this shit. But,
Yeah.
you know, it was, I think what convinced me more was that the people were just like, they weren't, they weren't putting on airs.
Right.
They just looked like common people.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They were
Right.
dressed like common people. They didn't have any kind of weird speech or weird vernacular, or they weren't using gushy terms or whatever. It was just like, oh, you're very lovely. Oh, you're very, whatever. What do you think? Can you brush up
Yeah.
against me? Or well, like, give me a hug or whatever, something like that. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you know, it could just be that I wanted, not that I wanted it to be so, just that like I feel a kindred spirit, when somebody's not using weird language and shit or being overly anything.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
you know
it's
what?
kind of like what Eric said, it's like, oh, I expected him to be like
Oh
Gandalf or
yeah.
something. It's like, no, he's just a regular human. I'm
Yeah.
like, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's funny because like when you say that, I was thinking about it made me think of how like Asha has been Asha will like lay on me a lot. Like come and like lay on my lap or lay on my chest or whatever.
Hmm.
And I told Kira, I was like, because Kira was like, how come she's always doing that to you? She never does that to me anymore. And she's like upset about it. And I told her, I
I need more
talk.
help.
No, what?
I need more help.
Oh no, I just said oh yeah, right. That's funny. Probably. But I I was like, no, I was like, I talked to her about it like multiple times.
Hmm.
Like I was like, hey, like I really like it when you do that. Like it really feels good. And like and I said every time I've talked to her about stuff, she has responded as if she understands what I'm saying. And I was like, and 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 so I told I was like, you gotta just try that, like do it, like, and so I mean, it's just I feel like it's another example of the tree thing, but in a just in a different form or whatever, right? It's like
Yeah, it's
I think we
almost like we have to, we're taking the principles in our subconscious and trying to externalize them in a way that makes sense to us, right? So instead of being like most people that are just too verbose and trying to, manipulate language because it's hard to articulate certain things. But then they start doing it with everything. That's what I mean by like people gushing on about, I want my open heart to be with your open heart. And, like, and I
right.
think these things are just going like, what the fuck? I don't want to open my heart to you, confused idiot, you know? And
Yeah.
so, and, I mean, we learn things not just visually, but we learned communication by verbal. And so, but when we go to the subconscious through lucid dreaming or other things, it's all symbolic, right? It's all pictures and trying to convey a ton of information through those symbols. And so, and I'm wondering if, for us, one of the things that we're trying to do is um, part of our articulation of those things in a better way, or evolution of articulation, is by holding the image of what we want, but then just giving voice to it so it holds us in that place. It's almost like our articulation of speech ends up being a way that we can entrain to hold that image for an extended period of time. You know what I
Yep.
mean? It's almost for
Yep.
us more than for the thing itself.
Yeah.
Like if I could hold, like the only thing I had in my mind was, you know, the what I could remember, the basics about that clip that I watched, and standing there and being absolutely still, not making sure that at least I know I can stand still for a very long period of time, and that I would stay there for a while and kind of give it a try. And that's what I wanted. Like that was the response that I wanted. And but then when I was speaking it, I was just sort of using my speech to not describe what I wanted, but for me to stay in that zone. Like, I don't
Yeah.
mean you any harm. I hope, I've done okay by you. You've done okay by me. I really like the way you look. I like that kind of just basic understanding of like, I'm not going to take a chainsaw to you or whatever. Um, and and I wonder if, we're kind of it's a back and forth process, like again, like thinning the veil from both sides type of thing. The more that we're able to sort of hold this image, which has all the information in it, but then hit like key points with our verbiage to sort of keep, not for that, not for what you're trying to communicate to, but to keep ourselves in that targeted area for a bit of time, right? And um, that came
Yeah.
to me while I was doing that. And I thought, oh, I never really thought about it that way. And I don't know. I don't know. It's just a question in my head. So, and it was right after I did that that this study came up and I applied and got in. So, um, but it's curious that
The
that
Monroe
whole,
Institute thing
yeah,
came up after this?
that came up right
Huh.
after that. Yeah.
Hmm.
And then, so I'm wondering if I feel like,
Oh, almost like it's a neurofeedback thing, kind of,
yeah,
or if
but
there's
we're
some kind
using
of.
our verbiage to hold us in the image that we're holding to keep
Yeah.
us in the zone of that within certain parameters, right? And so because we can hold that for an extended period of time, whatever it is that we're sending that to has a chance to actually acknowledge it. Where for most people with the monkey mind, they have an image, then have another image, they have another image, and the thing is standing there as if it's dumb because what do you want? You know,
Right.
like
Right.
you're
Right.
jumping
Right.
around so much. It's like I can't do 100 things in the amount of time that you poor frenetic thing, jump
Mm-hmm.
around in. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Right.
like what do you want, right? So, um, that's it's very funny, and I'm just starting to see those patterns everywhere in our society. Like people go to the doctors, but then they're finishing up work on their phone, like while the appointment's going on. Like I've got people that come in and just let me finish this, and I'm like, do whatever you want because I'm out of here in the next 15 minutes.
Right. Right. Right.
You
Yeah.
want to, it's not like, oh, I've got to finish this. I'm doing some shit with my, and it's usually like a text message. It's nothing important. Or I got to call this, like, then fucking call them and leave. I can
Right.
use the slot for somebody that needs to be here,
Right. Right.
without
Right.
being rude, but it's just like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I don't do that. It's like if I go someplace, you know, do I might have a book playing in my ear, not even, like bothering other people. But as soon as I get called, everything's off, including the phone. And I
Yeah.
go and
This
I
is.
have 100% of my attention on what I'm there for.
Yeah. This is a normal human behavior.
Sorry. I always knew I was abnormal. I just didn't know I was getting more abnormal as time went
Oh
on.
no, I said normal.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. To me, I think it is, but that's changing apparently. I don't know.
I don't
It's
know. So, but I just feel
yeah,
like,
it's I mean, I get it though. It does seem strange, but I
And if
guess
there is a way for us to sort of cut people's, because here's the thing, right? At first, and it's kind of a weird human thing, right? I mean, it is for me, but I'm like, if our true goal is to help as many people as we can, even to give them a glimpse at that world, like literally, I mean, I don't want to say pulling the veil back because you know what that means,
I
but like
don't
if we
know
can
what that
just
means.
give them a little window into that,
What do
that's
you
like
what do you think?
like
What does pulling the veil back mean? I don't know what that means.
well, pulling the veil back means exposing them to that, but for a period of in a way that they wouldn't be able to go away from it.
But what is exposing them to what?
Like in this case, like let's say lucid dreaming or their subconscious. Let's
Okay.
just pick lucid dreaming. So, because I don't think that the average person can keep from expanding on an idea once they've been exposed to something new. At least I can't. Like the ramifications of something like that are like it's not just like, "Oh, isn't that cool?" When I want to, I can go into a lucid dream and have fun, right? For me, it's like that might happen. Well, it did happen for the first 12 or 13 times. And by then I was like, that's it. What else can I do with this thing? Oh, then it was like bing, 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 all of these ramifications that could come through that platform, let's call it, right? And um, so if we really want to, give people ways, which we're trying to do, to get them into those places, and expose them to that to have some kind of result. Um, if we had a, a physical tool that we could give them to do that, just to give them a way to do it that would kind of cut the learning curve down more, wouldn't that be a good thing? Because it doesn't negate us. It just gets them into the platform.
Yeah, into the experience.
In this case, right? So, and then from there, I mean, it's not like there's instructions there for what to do next, right? So it's like either you can bump around in there forever, or you can have somebody like you or I saying, okay, here's how you extend it. Here's how all the normal things that we would do to sort of bring ourselves up in that. Um, so I think um, if it is true that they're able to do that and I can get them to like, kind of put more of their focus on the the other, that other avenue, the lucid dreaming avenue as a next step. Because not everybody wants the gateway experience. Not everybody wants the OBE thing, but they can't
Right, the having an out of
differentiate
body
between them,
experience.
right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So, but that's something that seems to me like at this stage, it's a little bit more tangible.
Yeah,
The other one, the gateway thing is way more abstract and,
yeah.
you know, and, and is a lot, in my opinion, it's a lot harder to achieve.
Can you, I mean, when you talk about like the lucid dreaming thing, besides like I was thinking about this recently, like just the idea of say you do some kind of devotional or whatever, right? Like you're kind of hoping for some type of contact or whatever, right? That would be
Of
like,
course.
or even when I've been doing the earth element journey meditations and
Yeah.
stuff, right? It's like, okay, well, maybe I'm hoping for some type of contact or some type of like information exchange or whatever, right? Um, but that seems it's almost like it happens in like small increments of information or symbols or suggestions, or what about this little nuance, or this sensation or this idea or whatever, that kind of like maybe builds up over time.
Yes.
But to me, it's the experience itself is like different than like if I was having a face-to-face conversation with you, right?
Sure.
And So, do you think that like lucid dreaming is one of the ways where you can make your, like, if you were doing, if I was like, I don't know if it was like Hermes or something, right? And I'm like, oh, I want to like go into my subconscious, have a lucid dream, make some type of contact with Hermes, or, a aspect of myself or a spirit that would be like the embodiment of that, that I could
Yes.
actually have a conversation with, that would be much more like clear and
More
like
intelligible to you.
intelligible. Yeah, because like usually like if
More
you're,
like a literal conversation rather
yeah,
than just
because
all
like if,
this symbolism.
or yeah, because to me it's like, okay, I'm trying to, because like if I'm trying to make something in my life better, let's say, right, like
Yep.
I have to translate like the
Yeah.
impressions that I receive in the meditation into the actual actions that I perform in the world to see if that result. But I can't be like, hey, like, what do you think I should do? And have
Right.
it be like,
Because it'd
you
be
should
like too
do
wide
this.
open, right?
Right, right.
You got
I
to have
think
it.
the only thing that I've ever gotten, I think the thing, the best example that I've ever had of that was when the my mushroom experience, where the allies were like, hey, like, you, why don't you make your, do a podcast,
Right.
turn your program into a podcast. It's like that
Yep.
to me was like a very, that to me was
That
like,
was direct.
that's the most, yeah, the best representation that I have to me of like what we're doing right now, where
Yep.
if you had the answer for me of what I should do in regard to some aspect of my life that I wanted some advice on or help on, you
Sure.
could actually be like, oh, take in this whole picture of your, like, if and you had the capacity to do that, like take in the whole picture and then give me some advice. But the advice could come in the form of like, oh, why don't you try this? Or why don't you
Right.
do this? Right. And I
Right.
feel like most of the time it's not like that.
Yeah. Are
But
you, let me ask you
I,
something technical about that. Do
yeah,
you, before you do, let's focus on the earth element meditation, right?
yeah,
So when you do that, do you, much like going to sleep or dreaming, do you ask a question before you go in? Do you ask a specific question of the information that you're trying to get?
um, every time I've done it so far, it's just been, this
Free
is the
form.
this is no, I've been, it's been, this is the result that I want to create or manifest or have in my life, and I'm
Okay.
here to get advice, feedback, or insights that could help me to move in that direction.
So I would say try to make it more laconic and like step back a bit and just say like if I had a if the king or queen or whatever or Brian were standing there or an elemental were standing there and they could respond to me from a direct question that is unambiguous, what would that question be? And then ask that before you start the meditation. Keep that as your clear intent, not like, don't make it so broad. Like, what should I do about this to make this end result happen? Because, it's almost too wide. Like, start it's good that you've made this introduction and you have that now. So it's not like they don't know you. But so now you can be more pointed with your question, but maybe not so broad, right? So that it's like, oh, instead of getting this broad view of like, what's the very best thing I could do right now that would be pretty ambiguous, because it could be for what, like even for finance, for what aspect of finance, like all of those things, like take it back a step as if you're talking to it, as if you were trying to make a logical progression. Start with the first step. Like
Hmm.
this is about finance. You know, if I had somebody just popped up in front of me, like Brian or an elemental or this other thing, you know, and I could ask a specific literal question that's unambiguous, what would that question be?
Hmm.
And then state that question before you do start the meditation.
Hmm.
And then when you get there, just repeat that very specific question. And so everything will start to tune toward that very narrow direction now. And so what you get back is probably going to be more like what you're asking for.
Right. I
It'll
see.
be less ambiguous. It'll still be symbolic, but it'll be much more cogent to you than it would be otherwise.
Right. Right.
Give
Yeah,
that a
that
try.
wasn't originally where I was going, but in terms of what I was asking you, but I'm glad that you responded in that way because I think that that's highly valuable like across the board because I've also been thinking about that like in general like with life and with like my day-to-day experience too, like with
Yeah,
my
yeah,
day-to-day experience of life. It's kind of like I feel like I'm in this place where everything's just like, well, what 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 do you like want? What do you want to like fill this container with basically? Like
right.
you like, is there anything that you actually would prefer instead of
What you
whatever
have.
it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like, oh, okay. Okay. It's just making me kind of like reflect on that a little bit more and get a little bit more specific, I guess, or kind of think about it more clearly in a way. But yeah, go ahead.
I think that's just the refining of where you are. And that's why, look, I have ulterior motives for you without spilling all the beans as to, why I said just start doing what you want and be a little bit more freeform with it. Don't make a huge plan of like, oh, okay, I've got to do this now. Oh, okay, I've got to do this. Just go with what you feel like at this time because, you know, um, that's the balance for this, for me, that's the balance of being so, again, from another teacher, blunt to the point of being almost rude, like you, you don't want to fall into the territory of these idiots that are just like gushing from the heart and whatever. And, these other things that have not the same logic as us, but definitely, you can get a linear sort of like literal interpretation of the answer that you're looking for, in a way, if you present them with a question that is much like that. It
Right.
will align to the way that you're asking these things.
Right.
So the
That makes
free
sense.
form stuff balances that out because we can't just be,
Right.
robots of like, here's the logic, only these number of words to do this thing, and then I'll get this exact information back. And, and on the other side being like, "Whoa, I don't know what I want. So, well, let's give you more of what you don't know what you want.
Yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, right. Yeah, right. I
It's
think,
more for your balance than it is for them. They don't need balance. They're perfectly balanced. They
mm,
don't, earth elements don't do water. They don't
mm,
do fire. They don't do air, right? I mean, there's
right.
aspects of those things in them, but they're basically much like an angel. They're kind of pure forms. They're not
Right.
spirits that just sort of are, like ambiguous about that shit.
I
It
guess
doesn't
my other
matter.
question about that though was like with the lucid dreaming, like lucid dreaming would be a way to make that experience also more intense and direct, right? Because
And
like,
practice.
in practice, what do you mean
And
by that?
practice, yeah. I mean, there's plenty of times that even if it's an aspect of myself, like let's say I conjure up some elemental, but I know it's not really an elemental, it's me as an elemental, or that element, that aspect of that element that is me, that's in front of me.
You can differentiate that in a dream.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
easily, easily. That's not even something you have to consider.
Okay.
You will definitely know the difference. So, and so there's plenty of times when you're working through these things, right? Or for me, there are plenty of times that I've worked through like how to ask, how to do, like if I didn't have so much training on, years of training of how to ask an unambiguous question, without getting flustered or whatever, like, or stammering, or like wasting, wasting the amount of energy and time that you have to be able to stay there and do this, on, trying to figure out the best way to do it. Like, figuring that out ahead of time and practicing that, there have been plenty of times when that aspect of me smushed me, and like sent me right back to bed, because I I was just sort of like flummoxed, like, well, I really want to know. Blah, 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 blah. It was like, see you later. So, like, you can practice, your question and response and those types of things. You can practice that conversational aspect, right? Or not interrogation, you know, just a back and forth relationship with your words. Um,
Yeah.
and I think that that's highly valuable, because nothing here as a person, unless I'm being a real asshole and they'll take it as I'm being a real asshole, they're not going to be able to ask me questions where I can like nitpick how ambiguous the question is for an extended period of time. Like, that's how I learned, right? He'd say, ask me a question about this, as if I was asking the I Ching, and he'd say, and he'd tear the fucking thing apart. And that was years of doing that before I could really consistently get an unambiguous question. It's so difficult for us because we're so muddled in the head with all these other things going on. And, and like, oh, I have your attention. I have to do this run on sentence of question, like, and it just gets so scattered that it's hard to, I think it's, I think it's very difficult for other to um uh, to build that kind of relationship when we're just, I think it's almost painful for them that you're so scared to be like, how I'm like kind of tongue in cheek but kind of not, like, about people's questions, right? And I'm like, like, fucking get to the point, like, I don't need to know, you know you'll prove your integrity by your actions. I don't need to know how open and loving and whatever else you are and all your background shit. I don't need to know that. What's your question? You know? And I think it's almost, and if it's that painful for me, I'm getting to the point where I think with other, it's extremely uncomfortable for them to be in close proximity to something that's so fucking confused all the time. And so, and that may harken back to, the first sin in Taoism is confusion. Because if you're not clear, you're not thinking clear. If you can't speak clear, you're not thinking clear. And if you, if you're not thinking clear, you can't speak clear. And so, you know, and if another student or a master or whatever just shuns you or wipes or just, go away, leave me alone, because they don't want to get, almost like confusion by osmosis. Like, they have a very clear idea of what they're doing. They have a very good way from training of keeping your mind on a single thought and making it so that when you ask it, it's unambiguous and you're only going to get the answer that is appropriate for that question, right? But not like something that's so vague that you have to guess at the answer. It's not, I mean, that's always, look, from time immemorial, that has been the bane of the king or whoever's in charge or even the practitioner who gets these ambiguous, these symbolic answers to questions and can't figure it out and is just so frustrated. Why can't you just tell me yes or no? Or go there or don't go there? Well, because that's not what you asked me. So I'm trying to, you know, for them, I think it's more like, you've asked me a question that covers a million variations. I got to give you a symbol that covers that million variations, and hopefully you'll understand to be able to pick the avenue that you want to go down, you know? And it's like, and I think that I'm coming to more and more understand that that's really the case. And it's, you know, they're literally giving you an answer to the level that you've asked the question. So if there's wiggle room in the
To
question,
the
they're
level of
covering
specificity.
all that type. What?
Yeah, to the level of specificity that you asked.
Correct.
Yeah.
In all its ramifications, right? So it's like, and the closer you can make it, that's why he was so like brutal about how bad my questions were and how wide open they would leave a response and how am I supposed to interpret that because it could be a million variations and you know um um yeah, just all of that. And so and compound that by a run-on question. You know, it's like that's the first thing that got eliminated. If I do this, then what will happen? And then and da, 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 and what will be that, you know, and it's like all of a sudden it's like, okay, you've got 20 questions in 2 sentences. You
Well, the
know?
cool thing, I think the main thing that one of the main points that maybe like you're trying to drive home to people all the time, that is probably one of the hardest things to internalize and like really get, right? Is like w- taking responsibility for like everything that you intend to create or achieve or have or do or experience or whatever, right? Like
Hmm.
because like doing that with forcing somebody to do that with their questions and become more clear, it's like then you the only way to make your questions more clear is to make the outcome that you want more clear and also be more clear about how you are choosing to go about achieving that and looking for advice on how to modify what you're doing to get there, whether you need to like change it completely or whatever, you
Right.
know. So like it makes you
But
become
see,
like,
that's going to be like a very, you know, people want it one time. They think it's a one-off. And it's like it
oh,
should
getting
be
a question
this.
answered.
Yeah, so it should
Yeah, it's
be
a
this like
conversation.
step by step by step, starting from the very most basic thing, right? Not the Neville, here's the end result I'm looking for. What's going to be the best next step I should do
Right.
toward that goal?
Yeah.
You know, regardless, you know, without adding some other things to that, that's a very wide open question,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's like, you know, you haven't said like, um, with the skills I have right now, with this ability to do these things, with, you know, and not changing any of that, what is the next step that I can do? You know, like you've got
Right.
to
Yeah.
give
Yeah.
it, the more refined and more narrow you make it, the more narrow your answer will be coming back.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it might take multiple steps to get to that point, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah,
So
definitely. Right.
at least
Right.
that's the way I've approached it. You know, I mean, maybe there
But
is a
the
better way, but for me, it's like I've found consistent results from doing it that way,
yeah,
starting
but
from a minimal place of like, I don't know what I don't know. So if I ask this very basic question and I get an actionable answer, then I can do that and see, oh, that worked. Okay. Now that I have
yeah.
that, what's the next step, right? It's
Right.
this very
Totally.
step by step, but that also makes kind of, you know, it precludes that you're going to go back you're going to make that part of your thing. And of course, if you're getting results, who wouldn't, right?
Right. No, definitely. But do you see what I'm saying too about the responsibility part of it? That seems
Mhm.
like so that's very daunting, I think, where it's like, well, I don't fucking know, you know, like isn't something supposed to tell me what I'm supposed to do or want or aim for or whatever? Like I think that a lot of people are in that territory where like the invisible and like your soul and evolution and spirituality just feel like what am I there's probably something that's like the
Tell me
best
what to
thing.
do, Dustin.
yeah, there's probably something that's like the best thing to do, or like I'm supposed to, you know what I mean? Like, but I think like, cause
Yeah, but
and for
no
instance,
matter
like,
what they tell you to do, don't you think you're going to learn something by doing it?
oh yeah, oh I know, I mean, I'm sure that that's also the case. Yeah, yeah.
They're
I
not
just
going to steer you so far off the path that, I mean, you might
no,
interpret it that way, but they're not telling you, start learning how to carve granite, Dustin. And
r- yeah,
you will be a famous like Da
right,
Vinci,
Michelangelo or something or whatever.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
sell one of those and you'll be good for the rest of your life. It's like,
Right.
woohoo, good.
Yeah, right, right,
Now
right.
I've only got to spend 20 years learning how to carve fucking granite.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we really are this bag of so much,
Confusion.
contradiction and everything in us, right?
Yeah, like
That
it's
it's just
kind
like
of
it's
crazy.
very hard. I mean, again, people balk when I talk about, um, doing like, open focus meditation or things like that. But I'm like, as abstract as that seems, having the ability to focus on something and hold it there for an extended period of time is way harder, you
Yeah,
know. And that's where most people need to be because they're monkey mind. I mean, we have all these
yeah,
memes
yeah,
for that, right? And
yeah.
it's like,
No, totally.
and it's like
Yeah.
that
Did you?
that was the best thing that came out of my training. I mean, there
Yeah.
are a lot of
Did
things,
you?
but that was the thing.
Did you read that? You probably never read that. That copy of the Pantanjali Sutras that I put on the site.
No, I didn't know you actually put it on there.
Yeah, I posted it. I'll
Oh,
email it
okay.
to you. It's very short. I've probably read through it like maybe 4 or 5 times now. And I've also uploaded it into like AI and asked it like a bunch of questions about it and stuff,
Interesting.
and had it like help me understand parts that I didn't understand because of the like translation or whatever. But it's is like it's I mean, it's just I found it to be like one of the best things I've ever read in terms of like simplifying what you're talking about right now. Just cultivating the capacity for focus, and how like, um,
I mean,
and
that's the part of all the cities, right? Is
yeah,
like,
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
powers,
And
basically.
but when he describes the powers, he's like all the powers come from uninterrupted concentration on whatever,
Whatever it
like
is that you're concentrating on at the
yeah,
time.
like it's like either it's like an internal dimension of your own body or your energy system, or like
Right.
if you're focusing on like the stars or the sun or the moon, or he's like all the powers come from that, but they rely on you being able to focus on that thing.
To stay on the bullseye for an extended period of time.
Yeah, until like you and the thing aren't separate or whatever in your perception or
And
whatever.
that's what I'm talking about with
Mhm.
this, bringing it all full circle back to this thing. If this, um,
The Monroe Institute?
yes, if
Yeah.
that actually works,
Oh, if you can use neurofeedback
to
to,
open up that channel to a certain extent over a period of time, that you have the capacity to focus on a single thing for an
right,
extended period of time, a single frequency, and be able
right,
to anchor it in so that you can just pull that up at will,
right,
that's a fucking game changer.
right, right,
That's a
right.
game changer, dude.
I would think that that would be like it would the ultimate, not the ultimate, but like the next level of that tool would be like if you could like take a reading,
Right. That's where we're going.
right, of your own mind, and then be like take,
Transfer it to somebody else.
or transfer it to somebody else, right? But also, but it could be even like if you could even do it for yourself, like have a little trigger in your hand or whatever where you could say like, or you could even see like like it could record as you're practicing,
Right.
and then you could be like, oh, at like 4 minutes and 11 seconds, that's when I was really in the zone. Like that's helped me to entrain to that, that frequency or that configuration. That's the one that I want, or that's like,
But do you see how all of those, if you had something that could help you do that, let's say a
Yeah.
course corrector, to
Yeah.
keep you in the a certain frequency,
Yeah.
and then when you got comfortable with doing it after several times or whatever, and then you said, how am I going to anchor this in?
Right.
Do I do this, one of these physical contact things that, as soon as you feel that, the first thing that comes to your mind is I'm in that zone, or is it, how much does breathing enhance that? Certain, box breathing or certain whatever, right? Certain configuration of breathing. Or, is it one eye open, one eye closed? Or, like you find some way to, you know, to not have to hook yourself up or do all these things, right? Like you want to be able to pull that up. I mean, we do that now, but it's a pretty abstract thing to tell people how to do that. That's one of the reasons that I like them to, if they can use a binaural beat to keep them in like alpha and identify what alpha feels like,
Hmm.
identify what beta feels like, identify what theta feels like, you know, and if you can, identify what delta feels like, right? So all of those things, and then gamma, right? So, um, and yeah, so it's funny, but if you had but the biggest thing of that is then how do you do it without having to put something in your ear, or how do you do it on your own? Because the pathway
Right.
will be so developed and so triggered by whatever anchor system you're using. It might even be a countdown, right? Like, or a nailed to a specific number or a specific symbol in your mind, the way that we would do with contact, right? Like, give me a symbol that I can then call you back whenever I want your advice or help, and it will give you a specific symbol for you that would do that, if it's so inclined, right?
Yeah.
So that's how we anchor that direct, speed dial on the phone to that other, right? So it would be the same thing with
But
this.
again, that relies on the capacity for focus.
And building that pathway so strong that as
Yeah.
soon as, like, let's say, as soon as my ass hits the chair, I'm already in the relax. I'm already doing it. Basically, I would ideal for Brian. My body hits the chair and my other body is like walking away. So, okay, my body's not going to fall over. It's in a comfortable position. I'm not going to wake up achy no matter how long I'm here, you know. And it's like that would be my anchor for that state.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then of course I'm going to want one that I can do it mobile as well, just because I'm a freak that way. So,
Mobile? What do you mean?
like I could be standing in the store and do that, or I could be,
Oh,
you know, I could be out in the forest and, I don't have my chair with me. So it's like,
right, right,
I
right.
could be
Yeah.
leaning up against a tree or sitting with my back against a tree or whatever, and then just whoop, walk out.
Yeah, I
So
mean, that would be pretty cool.
that'd be fucking awesome, dude. Seriously.
What do you mean
I
you
mean,
can't do that
that's
already?
what
Everybody
drives
thinks.
me, that kind of shit.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you mean you can't do that already? Isn't that what everybody thinks you can do?
I know, right? That's the horrible part is that everybody thinks I'm way up here, and it's like
Yeah.
I feel like I'm way down here, but I'm like an inch
Right.
above the floor.
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally.
Which is probably still an overestimation on my part. In reality,
What do you mean? What? Where you think you are? Yeah.
I mean, if we're doing, let's just put
Yeah,
a,
yeah.
I think we should put a disclaimer on all the stuff that I talk about, and it says, like, this is not to scale. Things
Y-
appear closer than they actually are.
Okay. Yeah, 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 yeah.
That would be an awesome disclaimer.
But
Oh,
it does like bring up like a good point, which is like I talked to Pat yesterday and he was saying like he's like, "Oh, I went over to Brian's and, I was helping him with his apartment that he wants to, fix up and stuff."
yep.
And he goes, I was joking with him about this. He goes, he's like, he Miyagi'd me. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, well, I had all these questions and he's like, but then like he just had me doing all these like things and then I think, yeah, he didn't say this explicitly, but I think what he meant was like the things you were having him do were kind of answering the questions that he had about like some of the stuff that he wanted to talk to you about or whatever. And 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 I was like, oh, okay. So like I'm sure his question, if he could ask it, would be like, how are you doing that? Is it intentional or like
I
or
mean, I know, like with him, with other people, you to some extent, less now than before, because you have a different relationship with me. You can ask me things directly, um, but they still don't feel like they can. I mean, to some degree, yes, but they're
oh,
still
I see.
very like almost on the high. I get it because that was me too. Like I
Wait,
was
okay,
over the
can I
top
just
respectful like that.
so are you what are let me just see if I can answer the question
Yep.
for you. Like, are you saying what you were doing was like speaking to the things that he would have has questions about, but in a way that was like indirect?
And more that they would, again, they would, if they get it on their own, they don't even have to write it down. It's it's part of them at that point. They've
Right, but it's
figured it
almost like
out.
you're doing it by analogy. Like you're using like
I'm walking
environmental
around the bush and
analogies.
letting them identify the bush, right? I'm walking around the question or the answer until they finally get the answer themselves.
Yeah.
It drives people crazy. I know it does, but I can't help it. It's
But
just
you
been so
are
long
but you are
doing
doing
it.
that.
Y-
It
Yeah.
it's not like you're it could and part of
But
how
I
you
do it so casually now that it's not like I have to think about it anymore.
but I guess my question about it is like it is conscious
It's
on your
conscious,
part.
but it's almost like and maybe this is an overestimation, um, but the stage is like in Dispenza stuff where it's like you don't know what you don't know, and then you know what you don't know, and then you know what you know, and then you don't know what you know.
Yeah.
I'm at that for that stuff. I think I'm at least on the cusp of I don't know what I know. So it just is part of me. I don't
But
consciously do it. I consciously know they have questions when they come here, regardless of what they're helping me with. I know it's not just, I mean,
yeah.
and I'm not saying anything bad about that, right? Like, I appreciate every bit of help anybody gives me. Absolutely. 100%. I would, if they said, I'll do it if you give me 2 hours of your time, I'd be like, fuck yeah, no problem. I just need the hands. I need help. Um, and I wouldn't care, and but but I know that they're coming because they have some curiosity or some interest or whatever, or they really want to know, right? So I'm not saying there's anything bad with that. And so knowing that, part of me sort of tunes into whatever that I have connection with, and um, and through our general conversation, they'll always say something that sort of makes me, sort of put things in their path to throw them in line with that answer, whatever it is.
Okay,
It's
but
really,
you
I
said
know
like
that's really abstract,
yeah,
but
but you said like two things in there, like things that you have connection with.
yeah. So
Like what?
anytime I'm interacting with somebody, it's like I'm calling on Hermes to,
Hmm.
Thoth basically, to like, you know, inspire me so that I mean, I'm not going to be as good as you, but can I open myself enough to understand the question at the essence of the question, not just the superficial stuff that they're hedging around? And then can I do things or move them in a direction that'll put them in proximity to the answer so that they can then, and just with little nudges, I can kind of keep them in that flow so that the answer will become apparent to them, and they'll understand it when they get it.
And
When
what
that
do you mean by
happens,
what do you
fuck
mean by
man,
putting some
that just sticks with them.
what do you mean by putting things in their path or
it's very free flow. It's like, we were cleaning up the place and we were, loading a truck and we were doing all these things, but it's just like, um, so I was using what was at hand. So analogies of cleaning and analogies of like picking up the pieces, or like be careful of this and not that. And, like I can't tell you exactly because I forget it as soon as it happens.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you,
Right.
you know, it's one of those things where it's not like, oh, I can use that later. Like I'm done
Right,
with that part.
right. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
That part
yeah.
I can tell you I'm definitely done with. I don't make a plan
Yeah.
anymore
Yeah,
with
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuff. It's like it's very free form when it comes to that stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Mm.
um, yeah, and that's starting to carry over into the even the question and answers too. I used to like think, okay, what, what am I going to go over? How am I going to go over that? How much is going to be taught, or how much do I have to review ahead of time? And it's like, no, it just, it's almost like that part, as kind of stymies me when we make a script or we do this or
Yeah,
we do that.
totally.
It's like there's
Yeah,
can be
yeah,
a
yeah.
basic outline, but then it's like I've got to flow through it in a way that doesn't feel contained. And if that's the case, then wonderful things come out. But if it doesn't, it's like, you know, it's like when you ad lib in music. If you make a plan, it sounds like a plan. I read this curious thing about um, he was an author, Mark Twain.
Yeah.
He used to do at the time, I mean, this was kind of like the equivalent of like social media. At the time, he would write, to promote his books and all of these things because he was one of those guys that was um kind of a national treasure before he died, right?
Mm.
So he would go around to these places and he would rent these halls, and people would come to listen to him speak. And I read this biography on him that said, um, he was he was an actor in the truest sense, because they said he scripted every word, pause, everything that came out of his mouth, even the movements on stage that he would do. But it was so well, he was so good at it that it looked like it was natural. Like it looked like it was off the cuff.
Right, right.
But every fucking word, every movement, every gesture was scripted. I'm like, damn,
Wow.
that's pretty impressive on one hand. And on another hand, it's like, what if somebody asked you? But there was not much question and answer kind of thing going on there, right? It was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like he would lecture on some aspect of American society, or, what he thought about the South or slavery or God knows what, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
people were there to, and then it was just small talk afterwards. And he was, I, part of that biography too said that he was pretty, um, um, introverted as well. So it's like he didn't do a lot of like hobnobbing afterwards or before or any of that stuff. He would do just the bare essentials that he could get away with, and then he would go.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and so, yeah. So, but I thought that's interesting because that's almost completely the opposite of me. It's like
Right. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
need basic things. I'm driven by the questions.
But
It's like,
when you hear a question,
yeah,
uh you don't always just speak to the question itself in a way. Like
yeah,
there are layers of information that come through the question or happen in your mind when you're as you're starting to answer it that you
right.
act on or you feel are like intuitive, right?
Sure, sure.
That, I
Yeah.
mean, that happens, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
And that's the exciting part for me, is because I don't always know. Like sometimes I don't even know if I've answered the question at the end. That's why like it's not just a mannerism of mine to say, how
How
was
did it
that?
go?
How'd
Yeah,
it
yeah, yeah,
go? I'm like,
right.
that's
You're
got
like,
it. I'm like, it's like I'm fucking channeling, and then
have
all of a
you
sudden, but it's not, but I don't feel like I'm being taken over.
Have
You
you
know,
ever
it's still
seen?
me,
Have you ever?
but
Have you, yeah, yeah, yeah.
but I do it all the time because I sometimes I just don't know. And
Have
like
you?
sometimes did I answer the question? You know, it's like
Yeah. Do you
I'm really
remember that?
like,
Do you remember that Will Ferrell movie, Old School?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, where they're doing that like a competition, and he has to do like the debate with people that are on the debate team at the end, and he's like super hungover, and he goes in, and they're just like, talk. He has to debate some guy from CNN or something like that on some kind of
I don't
like
remember that part. I
political
remember my
condition.
funniest part was the shot of the
Yeah,
tranquilizer in
that
his throat.
part's so that is gets me every time. It's so good.
It's like
It's so
everybody's
good.
like, and he's like,
Yeah.
that's so funny. I'm gonna go streaking now. Oh God.
You just shot yourself in the jugular with a tranquilizer. The best part is like right when it first happens, he's like, "That is awesome."
It's like, right. And it's like, whoa.
What? Okay.
So what was the thing with the
I
debate? I don't
love that
remember.
part. Yeah, in the debate, it's like he starts to kind of like keel over a little bit, and then he just has this like super articulate, intelligent answer to the question or whatever, and the guy who's debating him goes like, wow, yeah, that was perfect, actually, I have nothing to add. And and he like wins the debate or whatever, and everyone's like, oh my God, that was amazing, where'd that come from? And he goes, what happened? I blacked out, I don't know.
Exactly.
It's like like that. So what you're saying is that's like you like every call.
Basically. I mean, I remember the highlights,
Yeah.
you know. Well, that's like, I mean, I told you that story about the paper that I wrote in college, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the same
Yeah.
shit,
Where you
right?
like fell
I
asleep
fell asleep
writing.
at like 3 o'clock in the morning. When I woke up, I just grabbed what I had and left. And it was like, ended up with an A paper because, and I don't remember writing the last parts of it. I'm like, okay.
But things like that are is Brian a super genius or does he have like brain damage? Like, like
Probably more the latter.
yeah.
At this point, I'm a little scared about what they're going to find on these scans when they do them.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
what
yeah.
the fuck? You know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, you have a whole extra center of your brain. It's
Your
not supposed to
your
be
pineal
there.
gland is the size of a tennis ball. No wonder I feel like I'm freaking tripping balls all the time. Because I am. We don't know where this reading's coming from.
That can't be right.
That can't be right. That's right. That's not right. That's not
If
right.
that was correct, that would mean you'd be experiencing a 5 gram psilocybin trip all the time.
And it bounces to 10 when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
That would mean you ate 3 of those 7-gram truffles
Chocolate.
every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And that was just your little treat.
Oh, oh man, that is so funny. Uh,
This is what I
so
miss.
good.
This is what I miss with you.
I know. I was just gonna say. I feel like I was like this. I think this is the first time we've ever like done a Zoom call like this, where I feel like I'm in person with you because I'm like laughing so hard, like I'm with you.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Oh my
I
God.
mean, I'm sure I've laughed this hard before when we talked, but I just have this sensation of like being
Right.
around you. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I know. I mean, I miss it too. Yeah. Oh man.